Hi, my name's Tim Pitt and I'm part of SARDI's team managing the South Australian component of the Narrow Orchard Systems, or the NOS program. Here in SA we have two field sites that we're contributing to the program. The first is this demonstration cherry orchard up in the Adelaide Hills where I am today, and the next is an experimental apricot orchard up at the Loxton Research Centre in the Riverland. So today, here I am in our cherry orchard at the end of March in 2026. Our collaborating grower, we're really fortunate to have this connection. He's had a long connection to SARDI through SARDI's apricot and cherry breeding programs. And we're very lucky that he's got this corner of his orchard where he's happy to test lots of different genetics and give our researchers an idea of how they're performing in the Adelaide Hills. And increasingly he's been curious around planar canopy systems, particularly for cherry. And so in his own little corner of his experimental orchard, we've been lucky to overlay our NOS demonstration treatments. So the benefit for the NOS program in having a connection with a collaborating commercial orchard is that particularly at the beginning of our trial, these trees were in the ground a couple of years ahead of when the program started, and it meant that we were able to decide with the grower some of the canopy systems that could be or should be tested and overlay them across rows that he'd just recently planted, and give the local growers some insight into how they would perform in this region. And obviously for the grower himself, he gets the benefit of seeing how novel genetics behave on different training systems, and with any luck inform some large-scale plantings in the not too distant future. So as I said, I'm here in March 26. Our grower is really busy with his apple harvest, and the cherry trees are, they're slowly reaching the point of senescence, so they're starting to flag a little bit. We've got some pruning yet to do in this patch, but it has started. In this orchard, we've got multiple cherry varieties that have come out of the breeding program, and they're all grafted to Crimps 5. They were planted in a couple of generations, so 2 to 3 seasons ago. In 2022 was the first generation, and 23 was the next. We're standing next to a 23 season planting. And the systems that we've overlaid here are the single cordon upright fruiting offshoot, so the UFO, a bicordon UFO, a narrow canopy V, and what I'm standing next to right now is the central leader breaking espalier. And this is probably the one that's most exciting to us at the moment, more because we've not had a lot of experience with this concept of breaking laterals. You can see in this close-up that we've got uprights that have been encouraged from certain levels in the canopy that are then broken and then laid down onto the cordon wire. And the ultimate goal is that we will have multiple generations of laterals in a single position. So you allow a shoot to grow, it gets snapped, retains connection, and laid down onto the lateral. Through the subsequent season, it will spur up and condition buds for future fruit. The year after that, you crop that piece of wood, you remove it, and then you encourage the new shoot to come up that will subsequently be laid off. And so it's broken down and laid down. And so you ultimately have 3 generations of wood growing in a single position. The one that's fruiting, the one that's developing fruiting spurs, and the one that's growing, waiting to be broken and laid down later on in the season. So now here I am at the Loxton Research Centre. We're about 2.5–3 hours north of Adelaide in the Riverland, and I'm currently in SARDI's second NOS planting, and this time it's a fully replicated experiment testing the response of apricot to narrow orchard systems. We've actually got 8 replicates of 8 different treatments, and our treatments are more genotype focused. So we've got 2 of SARDI's apricot lines in Flavorcot and Rivercot 2, grafted to each of 4 rootstocks that we're hoping to see a range of vigors come through. And so that gives us 8 different combinations replicated 8 times through a 1 hectare planting here in a Latin square design. When the orchard was established, we made a point of installing an irrigation system that could accommodate future treatments. So we've got multiple valves that will allow us to overlay different irrigation schedules in the theme of the climate response. So we could perhaps in the future test a drought response to our genotype treatments. But for now, particularly over the last season, the principal focus in this orchard has been all around establishing the canopy. And I think the fact that we've got this wide format mesh as part of our trellis, it made the establishment of the trellis really cost effective. It's making the training of the leaders a lot easier, and we didn't have to put all that extra work into tying strings or putting bamboos on wires in order to get our leaders evenly distributed. So we're hoping that that's going to make things a lot easier over the coming seasons as well. So since laying down the cordons, which occurred a couple of months ago, there's been a reasonable response, particularly from some of our higher vigor rootstocks in throwing quite a lot of shoots. And so the job over the last couple of months has been more focused on feathering. We're quite keen to remove any of the growth that would come from the trunk or the union area if we haven't got shoots coming from the ends of the cordons. So wherever possible, we'll remove this to encourage growth at the end, on the presumption that that's going to be the most difficult space to get our leaders, our canopy filled. Once we've got shoots growing at the end, then we're more likely to encourage closer to the union. And similarly with some of our uprights, if we get feathering at the top, and particularly for some of our genotypes there is a tendency to throw shoots, we're tipping that as well to encourage the leader, almost like a central leader form, to chase the wire. So across both of our sites, SARDI's collecting detailed measures of canopy development as the orchards progress towards uniformity. We're tracking traditional metrics like trunk area and shoot lengths and complementing that with leaf area indexing, and increasingly making use of image analysis from a suite of time-lapse cameras that we've installed, and they look really promising and giving us some high temporal resolution for comparing canopy development differences over time. And of course, yield and fruit quality will be central to the story, particularly in the hot environment of the Riverland, where apricots in a narrow canopy could be challenged, and we'll be looking at the cost of establishing these orchards, and in our case tracking labour using the Tarto labour tracking platform, and with this data helping to inform cost benefit assessments through the establishment phase and into production. Across both of SARDI's sites, we're deliberately trying to link canopy architecture to labour efficiencies and ease of access and work safety and compatibility with harvest mechanisms, and with any luck demonstrating an early return on investment or a much easier system to manage in the long run, despite the early investment in getting a canopy up and running. And we're hoping that together with the broader program we'll be able to add a lot of value to what's being measured from other sites.